La 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 la. Liru. La 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 la.
G'day everyone, it's Taggy here. Hope you're doing really well. Just created that little dinosaur animatronic. I hope you liked it. Finally found a good use for the annoying singing bard as my prisoner, and a nod to a certain movie. No doubt you recognize the scene. And it was kind of fun just thinking about him working behind the scenes and going through this little door here and playing the role. And so let's play the animation again so you get the full effect. But yeah, we've got the spinning light and then the cage drops into the ground. And he just carries on, unaware of what's lurking behind, and got the bushes moving there, and out comes the beast. And a few special effects. But yeah, the T-Rex came out really well. I was really happy with the model. His eyes sort of close and open. And I've got a few motors going on there just to create that animation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with you how we did it. So yeah, if you like this kind of content, please consider liking and give me a subscribe. It really helps me out. And let's get into it. Right, well, how do you go about building something like this T-Rex? Well, there's quite a few steps involved, but it is doable. And it's probably worth noting that every piece in this animation you saw is just vanilla out of the box part of the game, including the sound effects and everything else. So that's one of the cool things about Frontiers Planet games, is you can be quite creative with just what's available. And you don't really need mods to do that. So this little guy, he is built using a lot of symmetry. So if you didn't know, you can take a piece of a motion panel like that and just deactivate it. And if you come in and attach scenery to it and then set the symmetry type to mirrored, then you get basically a lot more control for creating symmetrical sort of shapes. So it's all about, getting the overlap right. If I just turn off snap and we bring these together, and if you just take your time aligning and moving things around, you can get some very nice sort of seamless shapes. Now, it won't be perfect like a real mesh, but you're getting a join there that's a little bit more believable in terms of surface area. So for the dino being, a scaly reptile, you kind of get away with it being blocky like that. And it's not too bad at all. But obviously, never is going to be as good as a real properly designed mesh in a 3D software, but you get pretty close. So I'm going to strip away this model now and show you the structure underneath, or the motion panels, which basically give us the ability to animate it. And just a reminder that when you build your pieces, I typically build the whole model first, then I group the elements that I want and attach them to motors for the rotation and things like that. So let's have a look. Okay, well here he is all stripped back, just the bare bone motors and the eyes still intact. And the way it works is that a sequencer, you can add these motors individually and time their rotations. And because we don't have too much control built into the game, you have to create almost a 2-motor effect to offset the half oscillation rotations. And I'll probably go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute, but here's the animation kicking off just to show you the full effect. So pay attention to the eyes here. We've got 2 half circles that are attached to motors, and they're just basically rotating on themselves to create that blink. And we've got these staggered sliding platforms to keep it out for at least a couple of seconds before it then retreats back in behind the wall. So yeah, by combining different motors and stacking them all on top of each other, you can create almost a bone structure for your models. Now you may be thinking, how the heck did I come up with a structure like that? And the answer is, well, I started with the model and then sort of inserted the motors into it in the right position. So I didn't come up with the skeleton first. I created the shape first and then attached the motors where I wanted them to be, and put them into the hierarchy after the fact. And that ended up with this sort of structure. So no, I didn't create that and then skin it. I did it the other way around. So I thought I'd show you how to create a basic joint, and for this purposes I'm using this block to simulate a moving mouth. So we might want a mouth to open and shut, right? So let's take a copy of that one and we'll put it here. And we need to select the moving panel, the moving platform, and place it. And we're going to set it to on trigger, and I'll use typically something like quarter oscillate slow. And if I attach this now to that moving panel, it'll snap into place. And then once it's attached, I can position it where I want it to rotate. So about there. Now, if I attach this moving panel to the sequencer and press play, you can see it's going to rotate at the full 90 degrees, which is not that great. So what we want to do is duplicate and have a second motor that counters the first one to limit its range of motion, because we just don't have finite controls, at least not at the time of this video, and I really do hope they add it in a later update. So I'm going to do that as an on trigger only and do a quarter oscillate slow reverse. And when we attach this to here, right, I can get a countered animation by adding both motors now. And so there's a hierarchy here. Basically, you will see if I bring these together and press play, they're going to sort of counter each other. And there's a little bit of wiggling here because they're not perfectly linear animations. And so we have to bear with that, essentially. Now, if I take this piece and rotate it, let's say halfway, and then edit this again and offset our panels, I can sort of control how far it rotates. And because it's a oscillation, it's going to still come back on itself. So it works in the case where the mouth is already open. So I might bring that a little bit more. And this is essentially what I did for the T-Rex's jaw. So if we bury that in and then press play, you'll see it can open right up and then come closer to a shut. And yeah, you can experiment with different moving panels and different animation types to counter with the reverse and the forward motions. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done in a certain way. So I can reduce the offset by bringing these closer together, and now it doesn't move quite as much. And so you got some control by the placement of your sequence. You can then say, okay, let's call that jaw open. And I can create another sequence, and I can attach this sequence to the first one. And now it's labeled jaw open. So I can do some other things and then have jaw open play when I want it to, rather than having to simulate that every single time. So just by having a master sequencer, you can duplicate these and then down the line have the jaw open a couple of times, for example. And by doing that multiple times, you're going to get a range of different animations happening as you go. So let's have a look. It should be playing. There we go. So it's going to do its little open. And then it will do it again. Now, I'll just show you very quickly how I build up the animation for the dinosaur. So coming over here, hidden in the little shop is all my sequences. So the dino, it's got a whole range of triggers. I've got the bushes animation that makes these little bushes bend out the way. A different variety of things. And by stacking the different motions, so here's the bushes animation. It's two little motors rotating there. What else we got? The side roar motion of the dinosaur, a whole bunch of those motion panels tilting and twisting to give the head its motion. And then finally, in the final piece, it's like, different sounds, different rotations, all combining together to make the prisoner's cage open. So you stack sequences rather than having a giant sequence altogether. For example, again, blinking, the four lids all shutting and closing. Then I can just call a blink whenever I want it. So that's the basics of it. Well, it only seems fitting that we give Gulpy the prisoner treatment as a final animation. So Thanks again for joining me on this one, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please consider liking and subscribing. As I said, it really helps me out grow this channel and keep doing these tutorials, which I'm hoping are useful for everyone using and playing Planet Coaster 2. So I will see you on the next one, and let's give this animation a go.
Oh,